A large portion of the Jewish nation has returned to its homeland, but the heart, soul, and mind of much of the Jewish nation are still in exile mode. This state of affairs must and will inevitably change. This is Torah Nation TV from Jerusalem, and we are speaking with the head of Machon Shilo, Rabbi David Bar-Hayim. Shalom, Rabbi Bar-Hayim.
Shalom.
In the Talmud, we find the statement that the Torah and the Mitzvot are not to be construed as advocating being kind and acting mercifully, but are rather decrees of Hashem. What was meant by this statement?
This question has been debated by many of the greatest Torah minds for many centuries, perhaps even would be correct to say millennia. And to cover the subject fully would require probably hours. Here we are going to give a brief response, which I consider to be the bottom line and the real intention of the Chachamim when they made this statement. Rambam states in his Moreh Nevuchim, the Guide for the Perplexed, that there are two views amongst the Chachamim. The first view holds that the Mitzvot have no reason behind them. They are simply there to demand of us allegiance and obedience, and by doing Hashem's will we achieve that aim. And Rashi also seems to explain this position when he says that the purpose of the Mitzvot is to show that by following what Hashem instructs us to do, we are showing and demonstrating that we are Hashem's loyal servants and that we belong to Hashem, and therefore that there is a special connection between Am Yisrael and Hashem. The other position Rambam claims, that was also held amongst the Chachamim, although he brings no source for this, is the position that he himself holds, that all the Mitzvot have a reason, have a rationale behind them, and that at least most of the time we can understand the rationale behind a particular Mitzvah. The Ramban, with the Nun, that's Nachmanides, also expresses his view in his commentary on the Torah, that all the Mitzvot are for our benefit. And therefore, with regards to a mitzvah such as the commandment of the Torah not to take a chick or an egg from a nest without first sending away the mother, the Ramban says this is definitely to inculcate in us the sensitivity, the moral sensitivity, and the attribute of mercy and kindness. And this also is the view of the Rambam. As we said, the Rambam says, I adopt the view that all the Mitzvot have a purpose, and therefore I believe the purpose of that Mitzvah of sending the mother bird away before taking the egg or the chick is to train us, A, in the attribute of mercy and kindness, and B, not to cause unnecessary anguish to the mother by allowing her to see us take the bird or the egg. The trouble with all of this is that the statement that is mentioned by the Chachamim, both in Masechet Berachot and Masechet Megillah, in the Talmud Bavli and in the Talmud Yerushalmi, that one is not allowed when praying, when supplicating before Hashem, to say, just as you, Hashem, have had mercy on the animals in the case of the bird sending away a mother, or the other mitzvah, for example, of not slaughtering an animal and its offspring on the same day, just as you have mercy on the animals, thus also you should have mercy on us. The Mishnah states that a person who says such a thing in his prayer is to be silenced. And the Talmud explains this is because he is understanding or claiming that the mitzvot are all about mercy and kindness. And that is not true, because really the mitzvot are decrees of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this was understood by Rambam, and apparently, as I said, also by Rashi, to mean that if they are gezerot, they have no reason necessarily behind them at all. And even if they do, that's not important. The only thing that matters is that Hashem decrees and we obey. Now, there is no question, no debate, that it is of paramount importance that what Hashem decrees, what Hashem commands us to do, that we actually carry out, and that we obey Hashem in every way. There is no debate about that. The question is, do the mitzvot have a reason? Do they have a rationale? There are many reasons to assume and to understand and to interpret many of the mitzvot, certainly, as having a reason and rationale that we can certainly comprehend. But I do not believe that Rambam's understanding of the term gezerot in this sense, that the word which is usually described as a decree, to mean that the mitzvah in question has no particular reason or rationale, I do not believe that interpretation is correct. Why do I say this? Because the intention of the Chachamim, as I understand it, is to say as follows. It is not that Hashem does not wish to instruct us and inculcate in us the attribute of mercy, does not want us to act kindly even to animals, and how much more so to human beings, as Rambam points out in Moreh Nevuchim. It's not that this understanding of the mitzvah is incorrect. The problem is giving undue weight to a particular attribute or to a particular value in Judaism, and then constructing one's own set and system of values and ideas and one's own ideology. That is the problem. The Chachamim are saying Hashem is the one who, on the one hand, tells you to be kind in this particular situation, not to cause anguish to the animal by slaughtering its offspring in front of its eyes, and not to take the egg from the nest when the mother can see you do so, and other mitzvot that one could mention of a similar vein. On the other hand, Hashem also tells us, in many instances, to act in a manner which is clearly cruel and harsh and unforgiving. One could mention the simple fact that if Hashem truly had mercy on the animals, and that was the overriding principle when it comes to such matters, then of course we would not be allowed to consume meat. We would not be allowed to slaughter animals, and this would be a completely incorrect understanding of the Torah, because we know that in the Torah, according to the Torah, we are allowed to slaughter animals for food, and in fact the Torah commands us to slaughter animals for sacrifices as well. And therefore it is clear that the overriding principle of the Torah is not to avoid harming or hurting animals in general in any way at all. Rather, where possible, in particular situations, Hashem wishes us to act in a certain manner in order to be more merciful and to take certain considerations into account, but not that the overriding consideration is not to harm an animal, not to cause pain, not to slaughter, for example. Another example would be the commandment to circumcise a child on the 8th day. The mitzvah of Brit Milah clearly entails a certain element of cruelty and lack of consideration for the child in question. There's no question that it hurts the young boy to be circumcised. We all know that when the act is done, the baby immediately begins to cry, and usually the mother who is looking on turns rather pale, and we all understand this and know why, and we know that there is pain involved, and therefore you could claim this is a cruel act. On the other hand, the Torah considers this to be absolutely essential. The Torah tells us we must do this to bring this child into the fold and to seal in his flesh his connection to the Jewish people and to Hashem. And this is the overriding consideration in this case, and not the question of whether we are causing the child pain that will last for a short time and will eventually pass. That is not the overriding consideration. The overriding principle is what is necessary and correct and good and required to further Hashem's purpose in the world and to create a better world in general terms by looking at all the angles of realities and behaviors in this world. What is the end result that we are aiming for? What does Hashem wish to see in this world? How do we go about creating a better world? Letaken olam b'malchut Shaddai. And therefore, this is also, of course, why some people nowadays are claiming that circumcision should be banned, should be outlawed, because it is an act of cruelty, it is an act of mutilation, in fact, some of them claim. And one can understand their point of view if one adopts the position that mercy and kindness and not causing pain to another creature is the overriding principle of human morality, and this is all that interests us. But this is exactly the point. The Torah does not teach us that this is the supreme concern of Hashem, and nor should it be our supreme concern. We must understand that we do not always know, we cannot always know. Human beings are finite in their understanding and in their wisdom, and therefore we cannot always know how to act, how to behave in any given situation. In some situations, we may find within ourselves a conflict between a practical need to act in a certain way, which may involve cruelty or harshness or being unforgiving. On the other hand, we may feel that we would like to be kinder and act in a more merciful fashion. The essential message of the Chachamim is that we cannot know this. Only Hashem knows how we should behave in any particular circumstance, at what time it is correct to employ the attribute of mercy, and at what time and in what situation it is necessary and correct to employ the attribute of cruelty even. And this is exactly the message that we find also at the end of Masechet Berachot, where the Mishnah tells us that we are to serve Hashem, as the verse says in Kriyat Shema, B'chol levavecha, which is explained by the Mishnah as meaning with both the b'shnei yisarecha, both the evil and the good inclination, both the more gentle and the more harsh and cruel parts of our nature. And the question, of course, is how can one serve Hashem? And how can one love Hashem and one's yetzer hara, with one's evil inclination? How to serve Hashem with one's positive inclination is obvious and easy to explain. How to serve Hashem and how to love Hashem with one's negative attributes, with the darker parts of our psyche and soul, that is something that requires explanation. Rabbeinu Yonah explains there in his commentary on the Rif at the end of Masechet Berachot that when it comes to dealing with evil, for example, dealing with evildoers, those who propound evil and destructive ideologies, and those who do terrible acts of evil in this world, who cause harm to people who deserve that no such thing be done to them. When dealing with such phenomena, we must, says Rabbeinu Yonah, we must be unforgiving. In fact, we must be cruel. We must destroy the evil and the evildoers, and this requires employing the midah, the attribute of achzariyut, of cruelty. We have to be harsh, and we must not be forgiving, and not allow mercy to fog our view of reality and that which must be done. But precisely because human beings have these conflicting ideas and inclinations within themselves, it is only the Torah, it is only Hashem's gezerah, Hashem's decree, that shows us the way, when it is proper to act in this fashion and when it is proper to act in that fashion. And this is not something that human beings can fully understand and adjudicate for themselves. And those who believe, those who have the effrontery to imagine that they can decide what are the overall overriding principles of the Torah, and on that basis decide how they should act, or how the Jewish people should act in all kinds of situations, they are in fact rejecting this basic concept in Judaism. This is why Chazal say that a person who says in his prayer, just as you were merciful on the bird, in the case of the nest, so should you be merciful on us. Because a person who says this should be silenced, say the Chachamim, because this is a misguided interpretation of the Torah. This leads to the conclusion that the overriding principle of Judaism and the overriding thing that the world needs is kindness and love. Or to quote the Beatles, all you need is love. And that is not true. That is simply a lie and leads to terrible results, because then we permit the evil and the evildoers to flourish and to harm the innocent and the good, and to destroy that which is good in this world. And the Chachamim taught us that there is an iron rule in the Torah, Kol hamarahem al achzarim, all those who act in a merciful way towards the cruel and the evil, sofo mitachzel al rahmanim. In the end, he will inevitably, inexorably, he will end up being cruel and harsh and doing evil and harm to the righteous, to the merciful, to the good. And therefore, only Hashem knows what midah, what attribute, what type of behavior, what attitude we are to adopt and employ when facing this or that situation. And that is why the Torah is called Torah. It is instruction. It leads us and tells us how to behave in all the different situations that we encounter. This is not something in the realm of man. It is only in the hands and included as part of the wisdom of the Torah, which comes from Hashem. And that is what Chazal meant when they said that the Mitzvot are not Rahamim. They are not there because Hashem is interested only in mercy. Hashem is interested in truth and that which is right and necessary and proper. And that is the Gezerah, the decree of HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Thank you, Rabbi Bar-Hayim. We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. We would also like to suggest the following opportunity to our viewers. If you identify with Rabbi Bar-Hayim's message and would like to sponsor or dedicate a video interview with the rabbi in honor or memory of a loved one, if you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.